Before the dragons, before the emperors wore yellow, before silk crossed deserts and spices sailed oceans, there was one man with a vision, and hundreds of thousands who were forced to build it. This is the Great Wall of China. Not the easiest structure to miss. But what's hidden behind these ancient stones is far more interesting than the stones themselves. Because this wasn't just a defensive structure, it was a monumental waste of time, effort, and life. A project so pointless that even its own creators didn't want to work on it. Most emperors before Qin Shi Huang were more interested in collecting pretty rocks than uniting their people. But when the emperor of Qin conquered the other 6 kingdoms, he turned his attention to the unruly nomads to the north. To defend his new empire, he needed a really big wall. The Great Wall of China is not actually that old. It was built over a period of around 600 years between the 7th century BC and the 17th century AD. Other empires had walls before, but Qin Shi Huang wanted something longer, bigger, grander. He wanted all of China to be part of one empire, and all of those disparate walls to be connected. So his conscripted peasants and soldiers would have no choice but to march across the barren northern wastes and link up the existing walls, filling in the gaps with new brick and watchtowers. But for all its grandeur, the wall was a failure. The emperor's vision of a unified China did not last. After he died in 200 BC, the empire split into 3. And over the centuries, the wall fell into disrepair. Parts of it were abandoned and destroyed. Some sections were repurposed as burial grounds. Others became homes for the herders and merchants who traveled along the ancient trade routes. Even during the height of its power, the wall was almost impossible to defend. Soldiers stationed there complained of loneliness, boredom, and a lack of supplies. In the end, it was the Han Dynasty that fixed the wall and made it truly useful by planting trees along its length, establishing farms and villages. What's left of the Great Wall today is mostly the remains of the Han Dynasty's work. What do you think? Did the Great Wall of China live up to the hype? Let me know in the comments below. You wouldn't last a day in Qin's army. You are 17 years old, or maybe 25, it doesn't matter. The draft notice came. Every man must serve. You say goodbye to your village, to your rice field, to your mother. You are told you'll return in 2 years. You won't. You are marched hundreds of li westward, with thousands of others, barefoot or in worn straw sandals. Your back bears tools, your hands bear nothing. In the army, discipline is everything. If you fall behind, you're whipped. If you desert, your head is taken. If your unit fails to complete the quota, all are punished. You sleep on dirt. You eat millet gruel. You dig ditches for the Great Wall. You haul stones so heavy they leave bruises under your collarbone. Sometimes the man next to you dies from exhaustion. He's buried in the trench and the wall continues. You dream of rice. You dream of your village. You dream of anything that is not gray and cold and endless. You wake before sunrise. You don't speak. You keep building, because if you stop, someone else takes your place. No, you wouldn't last a day in Qin's army. Not even Ying Zheng, the 20-year-old emperor, could stomach the brutality. He watched as his people toiled and died. He walked among them, a young god among men. They called him the first emperor. When he was 30, he would be the only emperor of a united China. But that day was not this day. This day he was just a spoiled princeling who had inherited the kingdom of Qin. And he sat in his carriage and he watched the endless stream of corpses being hauled away from the wall, and he wept. The attendants rushed to comfort him, but he pushed them away. He knew what he had to do. He left the safety of his carriage and walked among the workers. Some looked up at him in surprise. Others spat and cursed, and the work continued. Yingzong walked for a long time until he found a young man dragging a huge stone up the hill. The young man's hands were bleeding, but he did not care. Yingzong stopped the overseer and asked for the young man's name. When he heard that it was a nobody from a faraway village, he said, "When my carriage arrived, why didn't you stop and tell me who was in it? Why didn't you come and ask me what you needed?" The young man looked up, startled. You are the prince," he stammered. I didn't know." Ying Zhang stepped out of the carriage. "Get in," he said. The young man looked at the blood in his hands and shook his head. "It's nothing," said the young man. "A few stones, that's all." The emperor looked at the blood and then at the young man. He saw weariness in the young man's eyes. the same weariness he saw in the eyes of the dead, and Yang Zheng made a decision. He helped the young man drag the stone up the hill. Together, they hauled the stone to the top of the wall, and the emperor wiped the sweat and blood from the young man's face. He looked into the young man's eyes and said, "You have suffered enough. Go home." The young man fell to his knees and bowed his head. "Thank you, almighty emperor." He got up and ran down the hill as fast as his legs would carry him. Yang Zhen watched him go, and when the young man was out of earshot, he said, "If I am to build my wall, I will need more than stones and sand. I will need strong arms and willing backs, and most of all, I will need good hearts." He united China, but at what cost? Hello and welcome to this channel. The first emperor of China was not a poet. His name was Qin Shi Huang. It meant first August emperor. He came from a small kingdom, far from the riches of the Eastern Sea. He was a legalist, which meant that he believed in harsh laws and even harsher punishments. But he was also ruthless and coldly brilliant. He would go on to unite China, not with poems or treaties, but with roads, weights, and laws and swords. He built roads to connect his empire, standardized weights and measures, created a new currency, even developed the world's first uniform writing system. His empire stretched from one sea to another, from the Himalayas to the Yellow Sea. He established schools to teach his subjects how to be obedient. He banned dissent. He burned books. He buried scholars alive. He crushed rebellions with terrifying swiftness. He did it all in the name of order. You see, before Qin Shi Huang, China had been a mess of warring states. But his legalism brought order. His empire was a machine with 1,000,000 moving parts, and he kept it all turning by stamping out any sign of trouble. Peasants who didn't pay their taxes were put to death. Scholars who criticized the emperor were thrown into the river. Soldiers who deserted their posts were put to sleep with a sword. It was an efficient system, but it was a cold one. The only thing that mattered was obedience. Love, poetry, art, even family ties, they were all irrelevant in the face of the law. But he wasn't just a tyrant. He was also a pragmatist. He understood the benefits of trade. So he built more roads, this time for merchants. He standardized axle lengths so that carts from all over the empire could travel on the same roads. And he created a single system of weights and measures so that a farmer in the West knew how much his wheat would be weighed in the East. His most enduring legacy, though, is his army, the Terracotta warriors. He assembled an elite fighting force to protect his empire from invaders. And when he died, he wanted to take all his knowledge with him. He drank mercury in search of immortality. Legend has it that when his head burned with pain, his attendants fanned him with peacock feathers. When he finally died, the news was hidden. His body rotted in the cart as his officials pretended he still breathed. After all, how could the mighty emperor be dead? He who had conquered all of China, he who had defied heaven itself and lived for 200 years. The dynasty lasted just 15 years, but his mark remains in stone, in law, in silence. This is your host. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, stay tuned. The Terracotta Army, an army of clay that guarded a secret. It was discovered by accident in 1974. Farmers digging a well unearthed a clay head, then another, and then thousands more. The Terracotta Army, each soldier carved with care. Their eyebrows, wrinkles, armor, even shoelaces, all individualized. No two are the same. None have been identified. Who made them? Were they slaves or artisans? Prisoners given a choice, a chance to earn their freedom by toiling in the pits? Most likely all of the above? We don't know. What we do know is that many of the workers were likely buried alive when construction finished. An ancient sacrifice to keep the secret. And still, they left traces. A handprint on a brick, a misspelled seal, tool marks that whisper of haste, fatigue, and fear. Out. The army stands frozen to guard a man who feared time, his terracotta soldiers, an eternal testament to his power. But their silence tells its own story. It took 700 years to build the Great Wall of China, 2,000 years to carve the army. Each soldier a masterpiece, yet no one knows their names. They toiled in secret, their labor a hidden cost, their lives a buried past. What can we learn from this? That those who build empires often do so on the backs of the forgotten. The price of greatness is always paid by someone. The question is, Whose story will you tell? The kings or the craftsmen's, the generals or the farmers, the teachers or the students? Whose story will you tell? The victors or the vanquished, the powerful or the powerless, the privileged or the persecuted, the celebrated or the condemned? We tend to remember the names of the powerful, the kings and generals who led armies and built great walls. But what about the others? The nameless, the faceless ones who toiled in the shadows, who made the king's dream possible? The Terracotta Army reminds us of their sacrifice, of the human cost of greatness. It also reminds us of our tendency to forget. To forget the stories of the nameless, the faceless ones. But their stories are the most important ones. They are the ones who make the world go round, whose labor creates the world we live in, whose sacrifices shape our present and our future. The capital, Shenyang, was grand. Its massive halls, wide roads, banners that fluttered even without wind, or so the poets claimed. The emperor sat behind screens. He was rarely seen. His ministers bowed low. His scribes wrote fast. His guards did not smile. Inside the palace, luxury abounded. Lacquered dishes, bronze mirrors, silk garments, gold dragons, but also fear. A wrong word led to exile. A whispered complaint could end your family. Even nobles trembled before the emperor's wrath. Behind silk curtains, the concubines painted their faces with cinnabar. Some never saw the outside world again. They served tea, poured wine, danced in stillness. They, too, were part of the empire's machinery. Polished, pretty, and expendable. The empire was unified, but the people were broken. I am the author of an illustrated history of the Qin Dynasty. Now let's read a selection of poems from the very first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang. These are his own words, written in the 2nd century BCE. In 208 BCE, the emperor was traveling. Heavy chariots, many riders, all for one person. I am the center of the world. Look how far my empire stretches. Mountains in the distance, rivers up close. How much land I control, how much grain my people pay. In every state, my laws are the same. My people are equal. But some things money can't buy. Can you buy immortality? I have searched far and wide for the secret. To eternal life, I have sent my emissaries to the mountains to look for the elixir. I have given gold to cunning alchemy. Masters, none have succeeded. Only the gods know the secret. What do you see here? What do you see here? Do you see suffering? Do you see the people? I see opportunity. It's how we became the greatest empire, through hard work. We built these great walls to keep out the nomads. We forged new weapons. We defeated our enemies. Now my people are safe. Now I can rest. Who are you? Who are you? You're dust. You are the people. You are nothing. You are everything. You built this empire. You pay its taxes. You dig its canals. Without you, I am nothing. Without you, I am the greatest emperor. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. Here is a poem by one of the many poets who suffered under Qin Shi Huang. Weary, weary. Oh, how I hate this great Qin. When will the tyrant die? How I hate the palace with its high walls, the chariots that never stop, the ceaseless flow of wine. The king drinks deep. He dreams he is the Yellow Emperor. He is having the time of his life. While the people weep, he knows not why. He rages and he screams. Let the scholars perish, he cries. Let the family of Confucius be wiped out. And now for something completely different. This next poem is about the first emperor's favorite wife. It's the Lady of the Qin. She appears in several poems, but always from a distance. Look at this one. I see her from afar. Her hair shines like a lacquer. Screen, her waist is thin as a tree. Stride, her skirt is heavy as a mountain. She walks lightly. How could such a pretty lady be so cruel? She has brought misfortune on our family. She's the villain in our story. Why does the emperor love her so? Right? Class dismissed. For more about the first emperor of China, watch the series in the description below. And remember, you are the best emperor. The weight of the stones, the sweat on your brow, the dust in your throat, the ache in your shoulders, the sting of the whip, the hollow in your belly. The faces of your friends etched in the clay, their eyes turned to stone, their hands reaching out, their mouths screaming. The echo of their screams still ringing in your ears. You stood in line tonight, shoulder to shoulder with men who could not speak freely. You carried stone. You buried friends. You saluted an emperor you never saw. Your hands are raw, your feet are blistered, your back is bent. Your legs, they feel like lead. How many steps did you take today? Who remembers? But you do remember the silence. Heavy, thick, waiting to be heard. Let this silence lull you. Let the wall fade. Let the moon rise. They tell you to be strong, to be brave, to have no fear. But all you want to do is sleep. You are tired of the hollow in your belly. You are tired of the ache in your shoulders. You are tired of the dust in your throat. You are tired of the taste of the whip. You are tired of the faces of your friends etched in the clay, their eyes turned to stone, their hands reaching out, their mouths screaming. You are tired of the footsteps behind you, the footsteps that never seem to end. You are tired of the footsteps in front of you, marching forward into the unknown. You are tired of the sound of your own name being called. You are tired of the silence. And in the silence, you hear the whisper of a promise. It's a promise of rest, of peace, of oblivion. The moon is rising. Let it wash over you. Let it take you. Let it hold you. Sometimes unity comes at a cost. Sometimes the only way to survive is to learn how to be one with the wall, to become the wall, to feel the wall, to breathe the wall. But no one survives the wall. Not really. And in the end, all you have is the memory of the faces in the clay and the footprints beneath the lacquered halls. And the silence. Oh, the heavy, thick silence waiting to be heard. Sleep well. You are remembered.